How you doing today? Pretty good, I hope. I was sitting here remembering my dad. He passed away a few years ago, 5-ish years ago. And I don't know why, but it just popped into my head. Back in the 70s, they were switching from leaded gas to unleaded gas. Unleaded gas was like the newest, greatest fuel, right? You know, you could get this brand new fuel in the 70s, and that was unleaded gas. No more leaded gas. You know, that was bad for the environment. You wanted unleaded gas. So to get people to switch and buy a new car is what you ended up having to do in most cases. I don't know if there was a way you could take a leaded vehicle and change it without, paying some money, and who knows what that would have cost if they could have even done it. But their idea was to get you to buy a brand new car, right? That was the whole big idea was that. And to make sure that you did buy a new car, they made unleaded gas 20 cents less than leaded gas. And back then in the 70s, gas was 50 cents a gallon. So you got gas 20 cents less than that, okay? So there was, really a fairly decent incentive to get a brand new car, right? But my dad drove a Lincoln, and back then, it was a good car. He paid a lot of money for it, probably $2,000 or $3,000 for it. In the 70s, that was a lot of money. And it was paid off, and it ran fine and worked great. But he didn't like the fact that you could get unleaded fuel for 20 cents less than what you could get for fuel for his car. And his car was a nice Lincoln, great shape. Why would he want to get a new car? At least that's what he thought. And you could put unleaded fuel into a leaded car, but there's a bunch of different things that could happen. Some things in the motor could happen, I think. But one of the biggest things that would happen is the catalytic converter would clog up. It would just clog up and stop your car from running. Now, just like now, you can't hack your catalytic converter off without getting in trouble. And especially then, they were switching to this new gas. There was probably incentives and all that to turn anybody in that actually hacked off, and they could prove that they hacked their converter off of their car. Garages probably got incentives, and of course then you'd have to put a new catalytic converter on there, and who knows what would have happened. I'm sure they had it all figured out so you'd get in trouble if you actually got caught doing it. So what were your options? Now my dad wasn't somebody just to roll over and take it. He was somebody to take action and do something about it. Now, you could have your muffler system, your catalytic converter rust off of your car, but that's going to take time. And in the meantime, you're spending 20 cents more a gallon. You got to pay a whole 50 cents for a gallon of gas, and somebody else is paying, 20 cents less. I mean, you're not going to take that laying down, are you? Well, my dad isn't either. So it's like, well, how do you get a catalytic converter off of the bottom of your car without, hacking it off? So what my dad did was he actually took the car and ran it across the field as fast as he could go and just Baja that thing across a Lincoln. You're talking about a fancy car, especially back then. A Lincoln, he's bouncing that sucker across the yard and the fields and trying to get that catalytic converter off, because once that's ripped off, now you can straight pipe it. Wink, 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 I wasn't involved. It got ripped off at the bottom of the car. It's not my fault. And I can straight pipe it, and now I can get unleaded gas and put unleaded gas in there. And even if it wrecks parts in the motor, you never keep, or at least my dad didn't, you never keep cars for that long. If you got a car for 5 years or whatever back then that was long enough, and it was time for a new car. So by the time anything else got ruined in the car, the car would be down the road. It'd be somebody else's problem by then, right? So he drives this car across the field, bouncing along, and rips the catalytic converter off and straight pipes it just so he can save 20 cents a gallon, because he didn't like the fact that people that had new cars could get gas cheaper. and he didn't think it was fair that he had to sell his car, which by the way would, go way down in value at this point, because who's going to buy a car that you got to spend 20 cents more a gallon? Think about that for a minute. You're going to buy a car that's going to be more expensive for you to, per gallon to fill up, and that's a permanent thing. I mean, leaded gas is, at that point would eventually phase out, and it did. And all you could get is unleaded gas eventually. But at that time, you had two gas, different gases that you could use, and one was 20 cents less than the other one. You're not going to pay 50 cents when you can pay 20 cents less, So that's what my dad did. He never took anything laying down. So until next time.